I think when it comes to mental health, one of the most common things people do is they tell you, oh, well, I experience anxiety, or like, oh, well, we all find it hard sometimes, we all get down sometimes, or, sometimes I don't want to go into work or into school, but I just get on with it. And it just shows a complete, total lack of understanding.
Now that Italy's death toll has now topped 10.
Yeah, Susie and Jeff, for the past week or so, it's been really hard to find.
Had by far the highest number of deaths as of Friday at 204. Outside of China.
I've taken a test that has come out positive, so I am...
How do you tell someone who has severe mental health issues that everything is going to be okay when we're in the middle of a global pandemic? For people who already experienced mental illness before the pandemic, the stress levels which everyone else is experiencing now, it's probably just a taster of what their daily lives are like. So for this video, we decided to speak to two different people who have experienced mental illness and are currently experiencing mental illness to see their perspectives of self-isolation.
I definitely developed an agoraphobia towards college in recent years, and I found it increasingly difficult to go into college itself and specific lectures or tutorials or anything like that. And eventually I ended up in John O'Gall's last year for a few weeks because I just completely shut down. If you're agoraphobic, say, and you're trapped, you spend 80% of your time in your room, that's incredibly depressing. You're not achieving anything, which is so important for mental health. You're not achieving your goals. In fact, you just feel like you're failing constantly. You're just failing college, failing at life.
Eleanor Brayden is living with obsessive compulsive disorder, anxiety and depression. She's also my identical twin, so I've grown up with her my entire life.
Every single thing has a routine and a ritual. If I take up a dress from my floor and I put it away, I'll have to do 5 different things. Whereas someone without OCD can just pick up the dress and hang it up. Someone with OCD, it can take them 5 minutes, and if there's 10 dresses on your floor, that's an hour. It's very frustrating when you hear people not necessarily joking about it, but making light and saying, I'm so OCD, and you can tell they don't understand the implications of that term. Obviously, a pandemic is probably the worst thing to happen for me and for people with health anxiety. It is also very hard because it is your worst nightmare being reimagined, and every cough, every sneeze, you just jump to, I have coronavirus, or this, I won't make it through, or I'll be in the ICU, or
It definitely makes me scared to go out in general. What makes it difficult is the latent anxiety. I feel like I'm feeding off, I feel like I can feel and I'm taking in everyone else's anxiety, I think it's an incredibly difficult time. And also not just for that, but for people with severe autism, say, or people with special needs. And it's very hard for them to understand why we're doing this, because it is an invisible enemy.
What are the effects of isolation on a person's mental health?
Okay, they can be really varied, and a lot depends on how well a person is able to cope with relying on themselves or drawing deeply on their own resources. But for most of us, if we're honest, too much time alone is a really negative factor. And I think the time spent alone, if we don't keep that very busy, allows us to ruminate, to think, and that thinking then goes into worry, and that worry can go into a deeper anxiety. So it's really important that we don't let the anxiety creep in by keeping busy. Really, really important, if they can, is to reach out to friends and family via the telephone if they're able to, or by Skype or FaceTime, just to keep in touch with their family, and to be able to sort of just do some painting, do some drawing, do some creative work that will really absorb their mind, so they will have less time to be thinking about the horrible stuff that's going on outside the door.
I think it's been a very anxious time for everybody. And I think it's particularly difficult for people who have anxiety or who suffer from mental health conditions anyhow. What I've noticed is that she was initially very anxious about getting the virus, or about people that she cares about getting the virus, anxious about going into places where she might pick it up, or where she feels she's out in the open. And more recently, I think she's finding the lack of a routine very difficult, hard to keep herself busy. So she's away from, I suppose, the normal routines and structures that normally support her and keep her busy. And that's been very hard for her. I try to help her by maybe trying to break down her thoughts with her, what's happening in her head, maybe looking at how illogical they can be. Sometimes we'd use a bit of distraction, or maybe I'd encourage her to go off and do something like have a bath, something that relaxes her.
It's a shame it takes a global pandemic to make people realise that their actions have consequences, and they're not immune to illness or to anything. It's different for me because I have a heightened awareness of that 24/7. In a way, sometimes people with anxiety already sort of know how to manage it. I do have some tools from therapy and books from therapy and things I've learned to help me, and medication, whereas other people, this might be a new feeling for them and they don't know how to cope. I think there's a lot of messages going around now of people saying reach out, or isolation is a big thing. People are on the lookout for depression and anxiety in this time, because it's such an understandable thing for those illnesses to be triggered during a time like this. And I think that awareness won't really just die off once this ends. I think it's just given people a heightened sense of empathy for people around them as well. Like, they realise that what they do might harm someone else or save someone else. So it's given a sense of personal responsibility over the feelings or the well-being of other people, which I think is a really valuable thing to have, even when this is over.